King David was now old. His days were coming to an end. The palace was silent, but the tension was almost tangible. Everyone wanted to know, who would inherit the throne of Israel? Adonijah, one of David's eldest sons, didn't want to wait for the answer. He gathered chariots, horsemen, and even military leaders to proclaim himself king. He threw a great feast and invited the most influential men in the kingdom, as if the throne were already his by right. But someone was watching, someone who had a promise to uphold. Bathsheba, David's wife and Solomon's mother, sought out the prophet Nathan. Together, they went to the king's chamber. David was weak, covered in blankets, barely able to move. But upon hearing that Adonijah had seized the throne by force, his spirit was stirred. David did the unthinkable. While still alive, he ordered that his son Solomon be anointed as the new king of Israel. The sound of trumpets echoed through the city, and the people rejoiced. The news spread like wildfire. Adonijah was in shock. The throne now had a name: Solomon. Solomon was young, inexperienced, and burdened with great responsibility. And in that spirit of humility, one night as he slept, God appeared to him in a dream. "Solomon, ask for whatever you want, and I will give it to you." A request like that could change the course of any destiny. Solomon could have asked for wealth, victories in battle, or a long life. But what he asked for even surprised the heavens. "Lord, I am just a child. I do not know how to lead this great people. Give me, therefore, wisdom to judge with justice." God was pleased with his request, and then said, "Because you did not ask for power or riches, I will give you wisdom like no one before or after you will ever have. And I will also give you wealth and honor." And so began the most prosperous and wise reign in the history of Israel. Soon, the fame of his wisdom was put to the test. One day, two women came to the palace with a single baby in their arms. Both claimed to be the child's mother. How to judge? Solomon thought for a moment, then he ordered, "Bring me a sword. Cut the baby in half and give each woman a part." Immediately one of the women cried out, "No, please, don't kill him. Give the baby to her." The other coldly said, "He shall be neither mine nor hers. Let him be divided." Solomon then stood and declared, "This is the true mother, for she would rather lose her child than see him killed." The people were astonished. Solomon's wisdom spread throughout the kingdom. But Solomon didn't want to be remembered only for wise judgments. He dreamed of something greater: to build a temple for God. A dream that his father David had carried in his heart, but was not allowed to fulfill. Solomon then gathered the best architects, craftsmen, and materials. Cedars from Lebanon, pure gold, precious stones. The temple took 7 years to build. It was magnificent, majestic, and radiant. When it was completed, the king offered an emotional prayer before all the people, asking that God would dwell in that sacred place. God answered with fire, consuming the sacrifices. The glory of the Lord filled the temple, and the people fell face down on the ground. Solomon's reign became synonymous with peace and prosperity. Israel was respected by all surrounding nations. Trade flourished. Art, architecture, and culture expanded like never before. Solomon amassed immense treasures. He built palaces, hanging gardens, fortified cities. His ships crossed the seas, bringing spices, precious stones, and exotic animals. Everyone wanted to see the king people talked so much about. And then came the visit that went down in history. The Queen of Sheba. She came from distant lands, bringing camels loaded with gold, precious stones, and rare perfumes. She wanted to see with her own eyes if Solomon's fame was real. She asked difficult questions, tested his knowledge, but with each answer, she was more impressed. "What I heard about you in my land was little. Now I see that reality exceeds everything I was told," she said. Solomon smiled. More than riches, he knew his greatest glory was the wisdom God had given him. But not even wisdom can stop a heart from drifting. Over time, Solomon began to stray. He married hundreds of foreign women, political alliances that came with an unspoken demand: honor their gods. And he gave in. He built altars for foreign gods, took part in pagan rituals. He began dividing his devotion between the God of Israel and the idols of neighboring nations. The same man who once dedicated the greatest temple to God now erected shrines to false gods. Solomon's heart was no longer whole. God, seeing his disobedience, spoke to him again, but this time in judgment. Since you have not kept my covenant, I will tear the kingdom from your son's hands. I will not do it in your lifetime, for the sake of David your father. But your descendant will rule only a portion, Judah. The rest of the kingdom would be given to another. And so, the promise of eternal glory was undone. Solomon reigned for 40 years. He died in Jerusalem, surrounded by luxury, but far from the simplicity with which he had begun. Left behind a son, Rehoboam, who inherited the throne and the consequences. Soon after Solomon's death, the kingdom split. 10 tribes formed the northern kingdom, called Israel. 2 tribes remained with Rehoboam, forming the southern kingdom, Judah. The unity of Israel had crumbled. The former glory was now only a memory. Solomon left a grand legacy, but also an eternal warning. He wrote Proverbs, teaching the importance of fearing God. He wrote Ecclesiastes, reflecting on the vanity of life. And he wrote Song of Songs, exalting love. He was wise, powerful, brilliant, but also human, fragile, and flawed. And that's why his story still echoes today, because it reminds us that starting well is not enough. We must also finish well. Wisdom is a gift, but faithfulness is a choice. Solomon had everything, and still stumbled. May his life teach us that no wisdom is great enough to replace a heart aligned with God, because in the end, as he himself wrote, now all has been heard. Here's the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. That is true wisdom.